I am real. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to T-Girl Telepathica, where we have made quite a few changes around here. I wanted to add even more personalization to all of the videos I make, so I decided to go ahead and draw a little scene here. And of course, before I get into the topic of the video today, the machine spirit is very mad at me. I have gone almost a full year without doing any shilling. So, I'm going to fix that right now. If you like this video, leave a like. If you like my content, subscribe. And why don't you go ahead and leave a comment about what chaos god is your favorite under this video. And without further ado, let's get into the topic for today. Lorgar Aurelian. Lorgar is to the Primarchs the dark mirror of Guilliman. Where Guilliman is logistics for efficiency's sake, Lorgar is logistics for proselytization's sake. And the word bearers sort of follow this same line as well, as much like the Ultramarines, they are so extremely normal that they really don't have an issue making Marines. Guilliman is a little bit better at it, but Lorgar was such a close second that they were the second most numerous legion in all of the Great Crusade. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself there. Let's start with the man himself, Lorgar. Now, when Lorgar was yeeted through the universe by the Chaos Gods, he crash-landed on a place called Colchis. Colchis? It's this. And Colchis here is essentially pretty much Space Vatican. It was an extremely religious planet cut off by the warp storms of the Age of Strife, and they developed a religion of 4 different gods. Now, does that sound familiar? It really should, because yes, these are those same 4 gods, they just go by different names. Of course, a planet that follows chaos is bad news. However, the names were just different enough that the planet itself didn't actually get, corrupted. So there was still enough room for human civilization and free worship of these gods without becoming funny tentacle monster. So the whole 9 yards, you had pilgrims walking between cities to cities, pilgrims going to holy sites to pray to these 4 gods, and preachers preaching their word all throughout the planet. And when Lorgar crash-landed, obviously he was seen as sort of a messiah figure, a gift from these gods, because this guy, you thought Guilliman was glowing, this guy is definitely glowing. Charisma is one of his main powers. So this pod crash-landed out in the desert, and who should happen across them but a band of pilgrims? And leading this band of pilgrims was a guy named Corferon. Corferon. So Corferon is, he's kind of only really second to Erebus in terrible people in 40k. Yes, further than the Emperor, I would personally say. Corferon was a priest for this planet's religion of the 4 gods, and he was also an extremely abusive and terrible father, which Lorgar would be on the business end of. So Corferon would take in Lorgar, and he would raise him to be a priest like he was. However, when I say he was raised by the book, he was raised by the book impacting his skull over and over again until he got something right. This is how Corferon taught him everything. If he didn't do it perfectly the first time, he would be harshly punished for it. This didn't just make Lorgar outright evil to begin with. He grew up and he became a genuinely charismatic preacher, and even in quite a few ways, a kind-hearted soul. Obviously, there were quite a few problems. He was very quick to anger when somebody didn't respond well to his charisma, but we can get to that later. So as Lorgar was raised and as Lorgar became this paragon of this new religion, he began to develop his own theory for a religion and an identity to the god of this planet. What if these 4 gods are incorrect? What if there was one god? What if this god was powerful than these 4 gods, which clearly do exist? And what if this was the true savior of this planet? Now, daring to say this got him book face, but people really started to fall in line with this idea when suddenly a golden pillar shot down from a ship in the sky, and the entire area just started smelling like ozone as a figure about as bright as the sun in the sky stepped out and said, "Where my boy?" So yes, the Emperor appearing, despite hating religion, did give Lorgar legitimacy in the eyes of everybody on Colchis, as well as begrudgingly his own father. And though the Emperor really did not like the religion thing, he brought Lorgar into the fold and brought him to lead his legion. So that Great Crusade thing, that little thing that the Emperor, who doesn't like gods but still called it a crusade, did, the Lorgar joins that, and despite having the 2nd largest legion of all of the Primarchs, gets to work really, really slowly. Not really with guns, but definitely with guns, but not really with guns, and more a gun and a Bible. He smacks you with both of them. So the word bearers would arrive at your planet, come down, start preaching the word of the Emperor and tell you to not resist, and for some invasions, that's really where it ends. They see this clearly godlike figure and say, "Sure, we'll follow you," and that would be the end of it. He would convert all of the churches on the planet, and everything would happen bloodlessly. However, if there's a religious sect on the planet already, he would go about it in a crusader's way, because, it is in the title. He would crash down onto that planet, exterminate everybody of every other religion if they did not immediately convert, would knock down all of those temples to those other religions, and would build temples and monuments to the Emperor himself. Good news, well, good news-ish, good news as much of a religious crusading genocide can be. Good news, this was extremely effective in making loyal planets. Bad news, this took 2 to 3 times as long as anybody else took to take a planet. For every 1 planet the Word Bearers was taking, some people were taking up to 3, and Guilliman was probably taking up to 5, let's be honest here. I hate to stroke the man's ego, but he is literally the demigod of efficiency, let's not kid ourselves. And this slowness showed up on every progress report running to the Emperor himself. So when he saw this, he started to get mad. And when it kept happening, he started to get more mad. And then when he sent people to investigate why this was taking so long, he got so supremely mad that he threw up his hands and went, "All right, I have to do something about this." So he looks to Guilliman, looks to Malcodor, who was always right next to him. Ignore this guy. We will get to him. And he said, "Let's pay Monarchia a visit now." The burning of Monarchia. We will get to that at some point later. The burning of Monarchia is my personal favorite event in all of Warhammer lore. It is such an open book to the character of the Emperor. It is such a perfect tragedy in both ways of what happens to Lorgar and the Word Bearers and the people that were on Monarchia itself, and also the tragedy of somebody like Guilliman having to do all that and not necessarily wanting to, but we all know how much I was just following orders really means to anything like that. You have to be a certain kind of evil to even carry out orders like that. In any case, it is a perfect mirror to what the entirety of the universe of Warhammer 40k is really like, and it deserves its own episode. It deserves its own analysis, honestly. It might honestly end up being the longest episode I ever make on a topic in Warhammer 40k. Heck, maybe I can do that for a milestone or something. I don't know. We can figure that one out. The important part is Monarchia. Monarchia get burned. Lorgar gets really sad. Guilliman says maybe the worst thing a character can say it in this situation ever. And we get to the Word Bearers after the burning of Monarchia. Now, these word bearers are completely jaded. So Lorgar goes and locks himself away, sits in his own little corner behind a locked door with the two worst people he possibly could. He sits in there with Corferon, who is a space marine now, because when the Emperor arrived, Lorgar took him with as a teacher, quote unquote. Some really, really heavy signs of Stockholm Syndrome, but I don't think we're ever going to see any resolution to that. And the second guy is Erebus himself. Now, here's our second guy who's going to get his own episode at some point. Both Monarchia and Erebus are going to get their own episode, but everybody hates Erebus is a meme in the Warhammer community for a very good reason. So in this absolute nightmare blunt rotation of these two people, Lorgar gets pushed back towards those four powers that they used to follow on Colchis. Corferon looks at him and goes, hey, the Emperor, though clearly a god, does not want worship. He is not worthy of worship. However, there are gods out there that not only want worship, not only would openly accept worship, but demand to be worshipped. The word bearers actually get really, really good at capturing planets. Not suspicious at all, which is actually very suspicious and is why the Emperor sends custodes to watch over them. And they're making a fairly straight line of compliant world, compliant world, compliant world, until eventually all this compliancy leads directly to a place called Cadia, and then a little bit further past. Obviously, in the Eye of Terror, you're not going to really find anything good. However, the word bearers and Lorgar all really found exactly what they were looking for. They found their gods, and their gods gave them gifts about it. So once they get all their blessings from these four powers, they get all their mutations, their possessions, all of that good stuff, they emerge back out into real space, and they start on the crash course that will bring the Empire crumbling down, as it is still crumbling to this day. But that is a story for another time, whenever we get to starting the Horus Heresy itself. For now, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys really like this new setup that I got going on here. It's pretty cool digs. I like being a real thing now. Don't worry about it. I'm not in your walls. I promise. But yes, I am indeed real now, and the consequences of that will crash down on everybody eventually. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you guys join us next time, where I think I am going to do a episode on my personal favorite Primarch, Rogel Dorn. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. I will continue trying to release shorts on a daily basis. They're really easy to make, so I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. We're closing in on a year of the channel, and we're already almost to 100 subscribers. I genuinely didn't think I would get here, but now that I'm actually drawing for my videos and like putting more effort into them, I have this drive to really actually succeed at what I'm doing here. So look forward to a lot more and a lot better videos in the future. Until then, I will see you guys next time. Bye!